Oh, hello you. My name's Jonti.
And I'm Brandon, also known as B Squared, and this is This Week in Ink.
Each week, we'll be wading through the Inklands to bring you the news and views on all things Lorcana.
Coming up, we have our regular segments, Main Street Market Watch, and You Made Me Ink.
And we'll be discussing the latest topics and taking opinions from the live chat. Hello, live chat!
Live chat! Yeah, so we have some really fun stuff to talk about this week. Starting off with the set championship announcements. We know a little bit more about that. Disney Lorcana tweeted about that. We'll get into that into a second. Jonti also won a Trove, right, at a draft tournament this weekend. So we're going to open that live on stream. We're going to go over Market Watch, stuff like that we just mentioned earlier. And we'll also go over some of the tournaments that have happened this weekend.
This is the first sort of big weekend as far as actual sort of cards in people's hands, right? Like obviously last time we did this show, it was just after launch, and people had maybe been out and done some starter deck stuff or a couple of drafts or sealed or whatever. But I feel like this weekend was really the sort of big beginning of Into the Inklands, and we saw quite a few decent sized tournaments, so straight out the gate,
Yeah.
We'll talk about them a bit more later, but I've just have this thought, and I want to get it out there before I forget it. Do you think that's the right way to go? Because I think it is, but I know a friend of ours, friend of the show, Franz from Travis Tavern, was it this week or maybe next week? He's playing in a tournament that's still just set 2 or set 1 and set 2.
Yeah, I want to say it's this weekend,
Weekend.
Or maybe it was last weekend. I don't remember.
And I can kind of understand that, but also I can understand that most people competitively focused are just going to go and get the cards they need straight away, right? So
yeah,
that's interesting. I wonder, do you have any thoughts on that? I know I'm going super on a tangent now. It's just something I thought about and want to mention.
So, probably before seeing this happen, where Inklands launched, and we just immediately dove right into Inklands meta and tournaments were being run in Inklands, I would have told you I would have liked to wait probably a week or two before we started running Inklands tournaments so people could get cards. But I'll be honest, having the Inklands tournaments this early and even having them as early as the week of or the weekend of the release has been really exciting, and been really fun to see how the meta shakes up. I think that I don't know how much that is because I found this the Rise of the Floodborn meta to be super stale and was just kind of sick of it. So I was just happy to see more stuff, or how much of it really is just with every new set, it would be really fun to just dive right in, even though not everybody's gonna have all the cards to play.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And it is partly just comes down to okay, if people have got the money or the luck, they've got the new cards. But then also we're talking about 1K, 2K, win a case, a lot pretty competitive tournaments. Still just sort of local ran stuff, but these are the sort of people who already know what their deck is going to be before the cards are out. They just then need to go and get full copies of all of the actual physical cards they need, right? So yeah. 2 weeks makes sense because that gives time for cards to make it into players who ordered singles off of marketplaces like TCG Player. That is a good point. Yeah, if you're ordering stuff online and happy to sort of pay the premium to get them, they're still probably not going out. There's your big old pile, look.
Yeah, I got today was mail day for all the singles,
but they're still not getting to you, on day of launch, right? You might get them the Saturday or the Sunday if the mail's good and they got them out in the mail Thursday or something, I guess. But yeah, it's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's exciting to see, and we'll look at some of them in a moment. But first of all, we do have, as you said, some news regarding the set championships. I will say, in true Lorcana style, I feel like this is another announcement of an announcement.
It was also the very last minute of when they told us they were going to tell us something.
Yeah, because they did say February, right?
Yeah, they said we'd get more in February. Rochelle said something in the Discord, and we all were waiting. I remember it on the 29th of February, we were like, "Is it happening today? This is the last time," before everybody. I wouldn't have gotten upset. I'm sure some people would have, but before people start getting upset, and in Ravensburger fashion, of course, on February 29th at
Yeah,
exactly noon my time,
yeah.
they uh,
It
they tweeted this out.
just in February. I mean, not only just in February. 75% of the time, this would have been March 1st.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only
Like
was
the
it the
leap
last day
year.
of February, it was the real last day of February.
Like as far last in February as you can get without posting at 11:59.
Yeah, but they did say this. Save the date. Disney Lorcana's set championship is happening April. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit here. April 19th to the 28th. Retailers who have been approved for organized play prior to February 1st will be eligible to apply for a kit at the Melee link starting on March 8th. Let the play begin. So not only is this an announcement of an announcement, this is an announcement that stores may apply to may be able to run this in April.
Yeah.
So
To
it's
wait,
not even
they can
like you can go
apply.
to your you're not even like you can go to your LGS right now and be like, oh, so when are you going to do it?
Mhm.
They still don't know.
That's
So
that's wild though. I've seen a lot of LGSs already advertise set
mhm.
championships, like for certain dates, and it's like you don't know if you're
They're
gonna get a
just
kit.
they're just
Like,
brave. Like they're just
yeah.
brave. Because they're I actually asked for an official line on this, and I got an official no comment back. I asked, is the application a formality, or is there going to be separate criteria to that which has already happened for the original organized play? And I was told. I was told no comment. So we just don't know. To get organized play in the first place, there was quite a few hoops to jump through for stores. They had to meet certain criteria. They had to have certain things that sort of Disney and Ravensburger wanted. Obviously clean and tidy and safe spaces, restrooms, or at least access to restrooms, in the no sale of alcohol or any other sort of prohibited items and stuff. You'd be amazed how many game stores I've seen sell vapes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there was from applying to being a league store to being approved in the first place was quite a long process. I feel like this is probably going to be a little bit quicker, and I'd be really interested to know whether they're going to be looking at Melee numbers from league data for set 1 and set 2 for this.
Yeah, Trey in the chat. Shout out to Trey. He's a local of mine, kind of spearheading the LGS that I go to now. But yeah, he's asking what's the criteria on who they choose. We don't know. Like, I'm assuming it might have to do with numbers and attendance, and that's why it's been important for LGSs to input, the Melee stuff that they
They've
mentioned
always said it.
earlier.
They've always
Yeah.
said it. They've always said that they at some point the points of data will be read and looked at. And I have sat there diligently putting in those numbers. So I don't know. I don't want to sound like so big headed, but I feel like if like I will be applying on March 8th on behalf of my store. If I don't get it, I don't know who does, because we
Exactly.
'cause we've been having we had 45 players out on Saturday for the start of the league, and we've been consistently getting sort of 30 to 40. I know it's not the biggest league out there. It's certainly the biggest in my area. I know the girls from Live Laugh Lorcana have a really good busy league as well. So that there are stores out there getting really good numbers. But so I'm hoping we get it. But who knows, right? Who knows?
Yeah, I'm really hoping that myself and Trey, our LGS, ends up getting it, because I've mentioned it a couple times on the show. There's one that's close to me. They're both the same store in different cities. The one that's closest to me, basically the Lorcana League there is like dead. So like I'll be very surprised if they actually do get a kit. And what'll probably end up happening is all of us that go to the other one that's a bit further for me will go to that one for that set championship, and then hopefully the one we all normally go to get to set championship kit, because I think there's anywhere from about 6 to like 10 to 12 people that like show up pretty regularly at the store. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping we make that threshold if that's something that's
If it is a
considered.
numbers thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows? Yeah, but that's it. So the announcement, March 8th. Tell all of your, if you have an LGS that has organized play, tell them to go and don't rest on their laurels and go to Melee and see whatever the application is there and get started on it. If we are able to run it, we'll be aiming for the 27th, which is the sort of second Saturday. It runs over 2 weekends, which is kind of surprised me how much of a point of contention that's been this week, actually. Yeah. And I do wonder whether it's just we're a bit thirsty for something to talk about. But there's been a bit of a divide on whether or not that's good or bad, or like most other games, honestly, it's a weekend. They only give you 1 weekend to run this kind of thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So all of Bandai, Magic as well, all of their championships, they're basically saying to you, do you want to run it on the Friday night or the Saturday or the Sunday, right? They're your picks. And I don't know whether it's a conscious decision so that this sort of stuff is kept within the local community, because obviously the smaller window it is, the less chance there is of people sort of traveling around for all of these.
Right.
So I don't know whether that's the reason. I mean, that's I feel like is a good byproduct of the fact that it's only over a weekend. Whether or not that's actually why they do it, I don't know. Here you've got sort of 2 weekends really to hit. I'd be very surprised if anyone's going to look at running one of these, or at least a substantial one of these, on a weeknight. If you want to get the numbers you want to get for something like this, it's going to be a full day event. So maybe even across 2 days if you're doing like a 64 person with a a cut to top 16 or a cut to top 8 or something like that. So yeah, basically you've got 2 weekends to pick from. Do you see yourself sort of maybe trying to even travel a bit for these, depending on how they fall? Yeah,
absolutely. There's a handful of stores probably an hour away from me in the other direction that I normally travel. And I'm fairly confident that at least one of them will get a kit, because they're a pretty sizable store. So I'll definitely travel for them if they land on a different day than all the other ones around me. And other than that, it'd probably be another 2 hours or more for me to travel to another store. But I'll be honest, like with a group of us at our LGS, we all want to stitch promos, so we'll hop in a car and we'll drive down to whatever LGS and compete for it if it's on a different day.
That's kind of what what my little sort of play group has said. There's a group of 4 of us, and we've basically said, well, if the 4 of us go to all of them, chances are we could hopefully get one. Even if only one of us wins one 4 times,
right?
The deal will be that we all get. We all get covered. We all get sorted with one. So, we'll see. We'll see. I part of me as a player, I'm all about getting out there and driving around and seeing some stores and hanging out and maybe winning some. As a store manager, I actually kind of don't want that to happen. Like, I'm really conflicted over this, honestly. I would like to see 32 people who I see every single week playing and not have the ringers coming in and not having the tryhards travel in. So yeah, I want my cake and I want to eat it. I'll be honest with you. So it'd be interesting to see how that all comes out.
Well, and I don't think that's a horrible thing. I've seen in this discussion people talk about LGSs whose owners or the managers are offering their local players and the people who've been signing up to their leagues, admission to the tournament first before they cap it or whatever, so that they at least guarantee that the people who want to participate in that have been going to your store can. And I really like that idea. I think that would be really awesome for other LGSs to do if they're concerned about that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you can basically say, look, I'm opening this up to 32 people. If 32 regulars fill it, then we haven't got to worry about outsiders coming in, right? Like that's a nice middle ground. That's a way of saying, if you all get together and chip in, you'll all just be playing each other, and the 4 stitches will stay in town. But if a good chunk of you don't, then I'll throw the ticket online, and who knows who'll turn up, right? So yeah, that's quite a good way of doing it, really. Yeah. Maybe that's a nice middle ground. So yeah, there you go. Save the date. the 19th to the 28th. Most likely the 20th and the 27th are going to be the dates you're looking at. Those are the 2 Saturdays it can fall on. I'd be surprised if there's anywhere that's doing it. Maybe some places that know there's a bigger store nearby might look at doing it on the Sunday, just so there isn't crossover there. Your mileage
I'm really
may vary.
hoping that's what happens.
Yeah.
Just so that like people have more opportunity to compete, because like of course that's going to attract people showing up to multiple tournaments. But there's also people who like can't make a Saturday tournament, for that weekend or whatever. So like, it just gives people more options to go to one if they can't make one.
Absolutely. All right, there's that. So talking of local competition, I did take this Saturday off work and instead played in a draft and somehow managed to go 4-0 and win the thing.
Yeah.
Which I'm super chuffed about. I am very consistently average when it comes to drafting. You can look down, I'm like down the barrel down the middle of that table, like however many people there is, divide it in 2, that's where I'm sat on the table every single time. So the fact that I managed to pull out a win, I was super happy. Had lots of great games. I have the draft deck here that we can look at briefly. So this is what I drafted. It was just into the Inklands draft. We have done mixed drafts in the past. Something I'm really excited for is we've found a box of First Chapter, and I genuinely think it might be the last box of First Chapter in Canada. And we're sitting on it, and we've put a box of Rise of the Floodborn up as well. We're going to put a box of Inklands up, and when set 4 comes out, we're going to do a 1, 2, 3, 4 draft.
Heck yeah.
And I think that's a really great idea. I can't wait for that. But this was just into the Inklands draft. I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's a great draft format, personally, just because of how little board interaction there is. There are obviously a lot of draft formats and sealed formats. You're going to be in Lorcana. You're going to be relying, more on challenging based removal. Like that's just how it's going to go. So you always got to sort of be ready for that. But I feel like it's even more heightened in this set because there's just very, very little targeted removal. There's zero board wide removal. There's just very little of it, full stop. And what there is quite a lot of just like mid-tier value. So I just kind of found that pretty much whoever got a good start out the gate just kind of ran away with it. And I feel like a lot of the games, it almost went down to a dice roll, honestly. Like whoever got first out. Just things like locations. They can just sit there. They're just super difficult to deal with in a limited format. There's a lot of. I'll be honest with you, I didn't quite realize how many. Looking at the set from a constructed point of view, there's a lot of bodyguards in this set. Like a lot of good statted, low rarity bodyguards. I mean, you'll see here. Just looking at this draft, there's a Joshua suite. There's a Baloo. There's was there a Nani in here? Maybe I didn't end up with a Nani in the end. I think I maybe took something else. But even still, just those handful of bodyguards did a whole ton of work for me. The absolute sort of kings of the deck for me were the 2-drop Rush Stitch, who is basically removal in this set. Like that's your removal. Is a 3/1 that can swing into stuff. Couple that with all of the duck support, so you'll see Hueys and Deweys in there. I don't know which one's which, but there's a 3-drop and 2 of the 4-drops. And I know a lot of people got a lot of value out of the there's an amber support. It's even a bit cheaper, like a 3-drop with support. I think what it is now.
Is it Rolly or something?
Rolly, yes. That's exactly the one, Rolly. I know the guy opposite me at the table, so I never saw one, but he ended up with 3 Rollies. And I know he got a ton of value out of those as well. Just like support, it's just one of the few ways you can deal with locations and deal with the bigger butts,
Yeah, when I did a draft of the Inklands on release, I ended up drafting a Rolly, and it did some work, just like the support keyword.
Yeah, absolutely putting the work in his role late. I don't know if I'm losing you or what. You're going a bit robotic.
Uh-oh.
For me. Hopefully it'll clear up. I'm going to start closing stuff as I don't need them anyway. So yes, and basically Prince Eric is the man in draft. Yes, I did have a Prince Eric there, and he was really good. A lot of the time, just absolutely shifted how they were dealing with the board. One time he got dealt with really neatly. Just my opponent made sure that his board was empty before he swung into him, and just still lost a few things or whatever, but just was really good at sort of logically figuring out how the board needed to look when Prince Eric died. Another game, Prince Eric won me the game because my opponent moved 2 damage to him from a Mama Odie. Not realizing, believing that he said when banished in a challenge, not just when banished. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? So moved damage over to it, thinking it was a good way to deal with him, but actually it still just banished him, and I was still able to ping something off. And it was literally just enough tempo for me to get that last turn. Obviously, in any kind of casual format, I'd have been like, "Oh no, that does actually kill him. Do you want to take that back?" But I'd paid $40 to be there, and there was prizing, so I was like, "Sorry, bud, read the cards." It was, and the second he'd done it, he knew what he'd done, and was, a little annoyed about it. But it is what it is. We went for lunch. It wasn't a real big problem in the end of it. But yeah, no, it was really good fun. But yeah, definitely the standouts for me were the bodyguards, Stitch, and support, and higher value locations as well. Like the 4-drop locations are all really good. I didn't really get much value out of anything smaller than that, honestly. Probably the weakest card in the deck for me was Jolly Roger. I put him in there thinking, later on maybe being able to give some stuff rush might be good. Just never was used at all. So boom. Does that work? Oh, look at that. So we're going to open the prizes. I actually put this on Twitter, what I should do with this Trove. I was like, should I open it? Should I store it on the shelf, or should I sell it? And open it categorically won. I think it was like something like 90. It was 90% or something in the end. So everything's content. So I'm opening it, but only on stream.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna get the little inserts out of here and send them to Brandon, because I know he's a bit of
heck yeah. If you don't want them, I'm taking them.
Yeah, you're welcome to them. I don't mind. I don't love them.
I do. I'll take it.
There they are. I'm gonna leave them sealed up. There they go. These bits of crap.
It's so delayed for me.
There we go. Oh, well, you'll hear it. You'll hear if I open anything good before you see it.
I was laughing at myself. I uploaded a video when I opened my Trove and box, and for both I ended up opening an Enchanted, and I just like gasped so loud when I see that Enchanted symbol.
Yeah, what was that? Which one was it I watched? I think it might have been a Trove. What was the one you put up today or yesterday? Was it?
A box.
That was today. A box, was it? And it was with the Robin Hood Enchanted.
The Peter Pan
Enchanted, that's the one, yeah. The Peter Pan Enchanted, and you squealed.
Yeah.
It was so good. All right, here we go. Pack 1, Enchanted.
Just off the rip.
Here we go. All right, Grandma Tala, Nottingham, Stitch, the goat of the draft, Don Carnage. Oh my god, this is a really good draft pack. I would really struggle. Forbidden Mountain, great in draft. Mr. Snoop's very playable in draft, actually. Dewey, oh my god, this is like... I'm very glad that I didn't have to draft this pack. This would be very difficult to pick. First rare is Hades. Second rare is Lucky Dime, so a legendary off the bat.
Okay, legendary.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not one I'm particularly fussed about. And a foil air foil. Foil air foil.
Foil air foil.
Yeah.
I think I would have taken the Tala or the Stitch out of that pack
for draft.
For draft, yeah.
Stitch, or in Don Carnage, man. Just evasive.
Oh yeah, there was Don Carnage too. It's probably that actually.
Evasive is just great. It's crazy to think that I would have passed the legendary, but I genuinely think I would have done. Croissants,
Yeah,
thank you.
probably.
Yes, not airfoil, croissants.
What's the reference to that?
It was somebody on Twitter. It was somebody on Facebook had put what the hell is this croissant and spelt it like that. KWASSANT.
That's exactly what I thought too when I saw the card. It's like that looks like a croissant. And so
yes, but you didn't call it a croissant. Did
I
you?
know, yeah. But it's just like it's so funny that turned into a meme.
Milo Thatch, Rufus, another Forbidden Mountain, Mickey Mouse. I had one of these in the deck. Never really. It was ink every time. Billy Bones, a puppy, Cusco's Palace, Chernobog's Followers, good in draft. Cloud Kicker. I think he's pretty good in draft as well. This is the Shift 3 Sapphire one. First rare is the boss is on a roll. Second rare is a Lucky, and the foil is a King Louis.
Okay.
All right. So, not the best pack. If you don't want the Lucky Dime, I'll send you my address and take it off your hands. Seems like a lot of work, Elliot. I'm sure you could probably just grab one for $4 locally. Zazu, Lena. So, had this in the pack just because it was a body. Never thought I would play it. Inked it every single game. The very last game I played, they did turn one Cursed Merfolk. And I was able to, and they turned it sideways, turn 2, and I was able to kill it with this, which is very neat. Duck Manor, Mini, Agrabah, what's it? Locations heavy deck, Bianca and Smee, slightly Scrooge's Top Hat. First rare is Bell's House. Second one is a Scrooge McDuck. Super rare, and then a foil Cursed Merfolk. I don't mind that.
Oh, not bad. Yeah,
it's a pretty solid foil, very playable card as well. Pretty much standard in the in any sort of Emerald aggro you build now. Really, it's become the sort of standard one drop, right?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Don Carnage, Diablo, Pluto, Baboom, Jim Hawkins, Orville, Uncommons then a Nanny, Starkey, and Lythos. That's the one with Resist. First rare is a John Silver. Second rare is a Maui. And the foil is a foil Agrabah. So,
okay.
I mean, John Silver's pretty good. The problem is at this point, I've got play sets of everything I want, you know?
I know, yeah.
I'm literally just value hunting at this point, which isn't great. You shouldn't really be opening packs at this point if you know, just buy singles, folks.
Yeah.
But you all made me open this, so I hope you're happy. Airfoil, Magic Carpet,
$100.
Right? Oh, don't tell me about that. I should have just put it online. I should have ignored everyone on Twitter and just sold it. Keela, last effort, Maui, Dewey. First rare is Pluto. Second is a Madame Medusa. Don't hate that, actually. Don't have a set of her yet and think she's
great card.
Definitely good. And then a Cloud Kicker foil, so that's not bad either. Yes, I think she's really good. The more I see of her, and the more I see... Like, I know... Here's the thing. Banish is a thing with 3 strength, and you're like, oh, okay, all the little things. But then every day I see something else, and I'm like, oh my god, no, she'd banish that.
Much.
Yeah. Tragic Hero, the new Robin Hood. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah, we'll get into that for the tournament stuff because I think she's a meta-defining card very soon.
Yeah, she hits so much stuff. It's kind of crazy. So Hiss. The Queen, Captain Amelia, Helga Sinclair, Brandon's girl, Nutsy, Joshua Sweet, Pluto. I like the little Pluto. He's squishy, but I like him.
The 0-2?
Yeah, the little lantern. I like him.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Robin's bow. I saw Eric from the Gamer tweet that this is his favorite card in the set.
I saw that,
and I'm still waiting for him to back that claim up with a reason. It calls to me Aurelian Gyro Sensor. The second rare is Fang, and the foil is I'll Find My Way. Well, I'll be honest with you. I should have kept this sealed.
I don't know. There's still more packs?
2 more. Second,
2 more.
like I consistently get 1 legendary in a trove though. Like I very rarely see more than that. Skippy, Iago. Oh yeah, King Louis, Robin Hood, Voyage. Here, what's been hurt? First uncommon is Simba. Second is Jolly Roger. The Queen. Super rare. That's a good start. First rare being a super rare.
Is a good start.
Is Magic Dispel. Second one, another super rare. Shenzi.
Okay.
And a common Orville foil. Well, last pack magic. Oh, the stream's over, folks.
Last pack magic. Now or never.
It's now or never. Last pack I'll be opening for a bit, I think. Flotsam, Magic Dispel, Distract, Eeyore. Very playable in draft, by the way, Eeyore. I didn't see one, but I played against them a couple of times, and he's quite tricky to deal with. Agrabah, Mr. Snoops, Wildcat's Wrench, Ursula, great uncommon, probably the uncommon of the set, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's between her and Cloud Kicker. God, Emerald got some good stuff. Sorry?
Is Smee
uncommon? Smee, yeah, Smee. Yeah, Emerald and Steel just got some bangers, eh?
Yeah.
Magic Broom, Ursula is the first rare. Grandma Tala is the second legendary. So that's 2 legendaries, and then the foil is Bestow a Gift. So, okay, we got both Sapphire legendaries, a color that isn't really making waves in the set.
Don't say that. No, Sapphire's making waves. Sapphire's making waves now.
So, we'll look at this in a moment. It did not have a good start out the gate, but already we're seeing a big shift towards Sapphire.
Big shift.
I still don't think we're seeing either of these cards in that deck, though, are we?
No.
Yeah.
I say that. No, that's not true. There's a tournament we'll get into later that one of the Lorcana twins actually won. That ran a single Grandma Tala.
Oh yeah, just as like an end of the game win con kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just seeing nothing else, just splooge your hand into it. Well, there you go. 2 legendaries. I shouldn't really moan, should I?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, the I think the Tala is a pretty good legendary to pull. It's not the most. I mean, there's certainly much better ones that you could have pulled, but like you can play Grandma Tala.
I would love to see Lucky Dime work.
I would too, and I see people trying to make it work, and I just don't know. I don't know that it does. I can't. I've tried like once a week. I'm like, I can make Lucky Dime work. Let me try this, and I build a deck, and the further that I build the deck, the more I'm just like, yeah, never mind, this doesn't.
I feel like I do it, and like I've tried with all of I've put all the Titans in a deck, I've put all the Brooms in a deck, and after a few games, I'm just sitting there thinking, why am I wasting time on this? Let's just learn to play something that's good.
I ordered 3 Stratos that came in today, just in case Titans end up being a thing.
The problem is I don't feel like they are, because I actually think Stratos is pretty good. In as much as if they ever print some like 2 and 3 and 4 drop Titans, it's probably too good. So I just don't think they ever will. I think that's it. I think we've seen all the Titans we're ever going to see. They might print the Cyclops dude in steel next set, and that's it. Yeah, and he's a 9 drop or something.
Yeah, probably.
Dime does some work with Bell and Magica. So AJ, I marked your league sheet today. AJ is one of the store's regulars, and I saw that you were playing a Sapphire Amethyst deck. So I assume that's a Dime with Bell and Magica deck. So I'm excited to play against that. I didn't get a chance to on Saturday. But yeah, I want Sapphire to work. Unlike a lot of the other colours, I didn't seem to do anything new this set other than shift Grandma Tala. And even that's not necessarily new. It's just Sapphire, I feel like, has too strong an identity almost. It's like it ramps and it has items, and that's it.
Yeah, but it works. It works now. I swear. Like chat, you keep dissing Sapphire. Just wait. Just wait.
Just
till we
wait.
get into it. I have
Just
so much to
wait.
say about this.
All right. Well, we'll move on so we get there before Brandon has an aneurysm. We do have a "You Made Me Ink," which I feel
Yeah,
like is going to be the beginning
speaking of
of his
which,
points.
yeah. So I chose "You Made Me Ink" this week. It is Cogsworth Grandfather Clock, um, being in Sapphire. In the first week of competitive play, not even first week, it was like the first weekend, the first couple days. I don't think there was a single Sapphire deck that made it into any of the major
No.
tournaments at all. And Steel was very strong. Emerald is coming out really strong with all the new stuff that they have. Amethyst, Ruby is still very strong, all because of cards like Cloud Kicker, Medusa, Steel's Along Came Zeus. There's a lot of really good targeted cards that in these colors.
I will say I reckon you can almost put money on aggro coming out the gate strong in a new set because it's the easiest thing to put together. It's the easiest thing to pilot, arguably, and usually the cards that fit well into it stick out. Like they're not combo pieces. They're like, hey, look at this thing. It comes out quick and it quests quick and it quests for loads. So you see things like Curse Merfolk. Like you don't need to. You haven't got to think about how that card works with anything else. You play it on turn 1, you start turning it sideways from turn 2 onwards until it dies. There's nothing else that card does. So you'll always find that those sort of aggro-y or just low to the ground and a little bit control-y decks come out the gate really strong. And that's not something Sapphire does, right? That's not it. That's not the thing Sapphire does. What Sapphire can do though is counter that.
Yes, very well. And like one of the things going for the aggro deck this set is all the bounce stuff. Like you could the Emerald Amethyst came out with a really strong tempo deck that just did that. You play a bunch of stuff on board, and then when your opponent plays stuff, you bounce it back to their hand, essentially wasting their turn, and you just run away with the game too quickly. Cogsworth not only is not targetable by the cards that do that because he has Ward, he's also not targetable by a card, Madame Medusa, that I'll get into in a little bit, that is become meta defining, I think, because there are so many really good cards that were played in previous sets and we got in this set that have 3 strength or lower, that Madame Medusa just explodes. So Cogsworth gets around the Madame Medusa problem. Cogsworth also gives all of your stuff resist. So the Steel is probably the strongest ink right now, is what I would say.
Yeah, Steel is very good.
And with so much so many grab your swords and giant Tinkerbells being played, and even just other damaging spells, giving everything resist really helps you last a little bit longer with that. Cogsworth can sing a whole new world, because he's a 5-cost card, and like nothing has changed in the Sapphire line of playing Fishbone Quill on turn 3, throwing something into your inkwell, and then the next turn playing Cogsworth, and then just like emptying your hand and playing a whole new world. So this week, I think we saw a response to what really came out the gates running for Into the Inklands, with quite a lot of blue steel, I think, like doing really well in bigger tournaments. So and I think a lot of that was due to Cogsworth. Cogsworth was just kind of an answer to everything that was happening in the meta at the time.
And also whilst he answers a lot of it, he in general is just a signpost for the deck as well. Just early value that's often cheated out due to ramping and just sort of sticks around, right? Like it's not necessarily doing much board control itself. It's just sticky. It's just difficult to get rid of and difficult to deal with. Yeah.
I'm basically talking in reference of Sapphire Steel specifically. I don't know that Sapphire does much with any other ink. I see people testing Ruby Sapphire again a little bit.
Yeah.
But primarily Sapphire.
I keep going back to Emerald Sapphire just because of all of the great value, cheaper Floodborns it has. and Bucky, basically. Like that's
Yeah.
so green to deal with the board, sapphire to build your own board, and then a little bit of a bonus with now Morph perhaps and Bucky, and
Yeah.
then Cogsworth. It amazes me how much difference there is in the amount of play between Cogsworth and Aurora from set one. On paper, very similar cards, but yeah, Cogsworth having Ward himself, is the real key, I think, to it.
Yeah, it's huge because I mean the biggest. I think Aurora would be great if she also gave herself Ward. Probably too good.
Yes. Well, yeah, because she just completely shuts a lot of stuff down.
Yeah.
If we got Aurora before Resist was a thing, but I always feel like even if it was just the other way around, like she had Resist 1 and gave stuff Ward, and then Cogsworth has Ward and gives stuff Resist 1, like that would have been quite neat and maybe would have made us see a bit more play, perhaps. I don't know, but yeah, just in general like that, like, and then there's the Jasmine, the 5-drop Bloodborne Jasmine, which isn't fantastic, but I don't know. I felt like there was something really neat there with like a real low to the ground curve, topping out at the Floodborns on 5, but it's not a thing. No, I think Sapphire Steel is 100% the way to go. And yeah, we'll take a look at a couple of decks, I think, in a little bit, actually. But yeah, no, I think it's a very valid Cogsworth. You made me ink. It hasn't particularly made me or Brandon ink. It's made the meta ink this week. All right, we have a little bit of a market watch to do. We're just going to take a look at the big hitters. Beast Tragic Hero from set 2 continues to be the highest priced non-enchanted card in set 2. It continues to rise.
Yeah, I think it's at like $50 now.
Yeah, $50 is the cheapest one I can see, with a median price, which is where a lot of stores will take their pricing from. Any store that uses Binder POS, which is a good chunk of game stores, to be honest with you, it's pretty standard. That's median price is where they get their pricing from. So if you walked into a game store today, you'd be looking at nearly $60 for one of these at this point. Yeah. Kind of crazy,
yeah.
It?
It's real crazy because I think I can't speak for anybody, but I was hoping that Beast would eventually start trickling down a little bit, like as more product got opened, and he just seems to go up. Like I remember, it was like last month that I was like, man, I really need to finish my playset of Beasts. I only had, I think only had one. And I was like, I need to pick these up because I know that once set championships come along and regionals come along, as long as I'm not commentating any of them, which would be really nice, I plan to play in them. So I need to pick him up because he's a really great card. I've played lots of Steel, and he was like $40 at the time. I was like, I just don't want to pay $40. That's so expensive. I feel like he'll eventually come down. Rapunzel eventually came down. So I'm just gonna wait. And then I was looking today, and he was all the way up at 50, and I was just like, well, now I'll pay $40 for him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because there probably isn't going to be much Floodborne being opened anymore because it's an older set, but also the value on a box just isn't there. There's no point in stores opening boxes. There's no point in people looking to sell singles opening boxes because you're hitting one of these and they're enchanted, or you're probably not making your money on the box. So because of that, you'll find that this will just continue to trickle up. Did you say that you bit the bullet on a couple of these?
I did, yeah. So Jay from Unplayable, I don't know if you remember those guys.
Yeah.
I finally trekked onto Facebook because I made a tweet earlier this week about wanting to find tournaments nearby, and everybody was basically saying like, you just have to get into Discords of LGSs, and Facebook groups is probably the best way to go. So I finally jumped into Lorcana Facebook. I jumped into one of the marketplaces because I'm trying to sell a Peter Pan. I haven't put it up for sale yet over there, but I was just scrolling through there today, and I saw this post from this person that I didn't know had a bunch of legendaries out, and they were like, hey, I'm selling all these at 85% TCG price. I was like, let me do a quick calculation on what that is for beasts because I think they had 3 beasts and a foil beast,
Mm.
and then they also had some Mufasas, and I needed one extra Mufasa. And I was like, if I can get them for less than $100, I'll just pay it. I'll pay like $80 or whatever. And so I looked, and it came out to be around like $42 a piece.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not bad. All the ones
Yeah.
I saw on Facebook were that or more that people were bidding on. I was like, I don't think I'm going to get it any better than this. So he was very kind and sold me 2 beasts and a Mufasa. And then it wasn't until we were like making the transaction that I sent him my PayPal
Mm-hmm.
username, and it has like B squared in it. And he was like,
Yeah.
wait, you're B squared. I'm Jay from Unplayable. And I was like, I didn't know you were Jay from Unplayable. What's up? So that was pretty cool. But yeah, bit on those. So I should have my play set of beasts and play set of Mufasas. And I don't think there's anything else from the Rise of the Floodborn that I need.
Rebecca in the chat says, I have 2 sad beasts, and that's just how it's going to be for me. I am in the exact same boat. Whenever I build a deck with steel, I kid myself that you only need 2 tragic beasts. Yeah, this is 2 of. This is 2 of this. This is a mid card 2 of because I also only have 2, and I'm not spending what will probably be close to about 150 Canadian for 2 of them. So.
Yeah, I'm waiting now that I've finally bit the bullet for everyone to say, Beast dies to Medusa, so we're gonna cut him from all of our steel lists now, and nobody's gonna play him. He's just gonna drop. But yeah, I did that, and I'm planning to buy the rest of my Inkland stuff that I need on probably Friday when big box stores
opening,
drop theirs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like getting nauseous thinking of what I might end up having to pay because I haven't pulled any Ursulas. Luckily, also shout out to Y Breezy. He sold me some Robin Hoods for a discount, so I only need 1 more Robin Hood and a couple more Jim Hawkins. And I want to pick up like some Talas and things, and like they're not expensive. They're $7 around that I'm looking on TCG Play right now, but 4 of those is $20 or $30, and that starts adding up.
Something you might not necessarily want to throw into a deck straight away and run out there. You just kind of want them, in case somebody really comes through with a deck. I thought maybe Robin Hood from the 3rd set would see a little bit of a decrease in Beast, just because he's sitting in the same cost and color, similarly statted, similar value, like obviously doing a different role, but you know what I mean. Like I felt like people might have just thought, maybe maybe I'll just run Robin Hood's, but no, it hasn't seemed to affect it at all. So
Robin Hood keeps going up.
Robin Hood is now 3rd highest enchanted from Inklands. Oh, I haven't even looked at the enchanted. We maybe do that in a moment as well. But the other one we're going to take a look at is Ursula. Deceiver of all. This is a weird graph. What was that huge dip?
That had to be like release.
That must have been just launch, I guess. It was, wasn't it? That's crazy.
And the low was $30 for that. That doesn't even feel low.
Yeah.
God, I remember I watched her at 25, just sit at 25 that day, and I was like, maybe she'll drop, and just never pulled the trigger because I didn't pull any. Now I'm kicking myself.
So I was lucky enough to open a few of these and get one in a trade. So I have 3, which like I can't see myself buying a 4th one. So again, at the moment, all the decks I'm building with is just running 3 of them and just pretending that's okay.
I feel like this card is too good for me to not own a few. Because I think this is very similar to Beast, where I never see a point in which this card is not good unless there's just a 1-cost inkable card that deals 3 damage, like just something absurd that can take this out very easily.
I mean, there's it won't happen, but like we never get another good 3 ink song, and just all of the good songs from now on are 4 and up, and eventually the 3 costed songs get outpaced. I can't see that happening. And also, yes, there is the argument to be said that technically this might be provably first edition prints because all the print versions of this say Storyborn and it should be Dreamborn. Whether or not that actually gets errated, we don't know yet. But I think that's another thing that might be. Actually, I don't think it is affecting the price that much, honestly. Looking at the price of Beast Tragic Hero, I don't think I think this is worth the $45 people are asking for it, honestly.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because there's nothing special about Beast, and he's still more expensive than this. And I mean, I'd say Ursula's power level is up there with Beast. Like it is a card that has to be answered at the moment that it's played, or else you're at a severe disadvantage. And
does get answered by a 3-drop uncommon in Kit Cloud Kicker, like only for a turn, but even still, man, the amount of times that Kit has bounced my Ursula back this last week.
Yeah. So I don't think, like, maybe a little, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's that much, and I don't expect a reprint like anytime soon, unless the batches for big box somehow are different and they got to change it before then. I don't see Ursulas that say Dreamborn coming anytime soon, unless there's a just large reprint of a bunch of stuff that ends up coming.
Yeah.
So I don't even know that would affect the price very much anyway. I'm just really hoping I don't have to pay $200 on Friday for these Ursulas.
Yeah, I was really quite happy with the stuff I opened overall, because I opened 2 of these. I opened 3 Jim Horgans, and I only opened 1 Jafar, but I wasn't that fussed on the Jafar, honestly.
I'm not either.
So I don't I've just put 1 for my binder, and then I'm happy with that, honestly, for now.
Jafar hasn't moved very much. Like, to be the most hyped card, probably, like when we saw it, it's basically stayed at 25. It's actually gone down a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it's consistently gone down, actually. Yeah, since the pre-sale launch, it had a slight uptake, but now it's actually come down even further. Yeah.
So this, maybe he gets a little bit cheaper, actually. There's a lot of those Amethyst cards that end up sitting around like $20 to $15.
Yeah.
And I think last I checked, Ursula and Elsa from the first chapter kind of sit around there.
They're just really because they're good in the deck they want to be in, and they're cool characters and cool art, and and all of those little things do just keep the value up a little on it. Like, don't get me wrong, I saw a game the other day. It was a stream game online, and the Jafar won it, right? Like it came down shifted. It sang a whole new world. They found a second whole new world from the dig and hard casted it. Like it's good, but that's all it does, really. I think there's maybe some value in it just in a general amethyst package that draws cards, but for the most part, this comes down, sings whole new world, and gets you 7 lore, but that's pretty much it. It's a very, very much a build around card, I think.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I will say, I'm very surprised to see Robin Hood as high as he is, because that was also another card that I saw basically hovering at $20 like all day on release day, and I wanted him to drop just under 20, and I was going to pull the trigger on a couple, and he wouldn't go under there.
Yeah.
And then over this past week, he went up to 30, and I thought that's all he was going to go up to after seeing Ursula get so high. And then now I checked today, and he was up to 40. Yeah. I think there's a listing now that's a little bit less. There's only 18 listings of Robin Hood right now.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can't believe he's continuing to climb as much as he is. Like, I'm surprised there's both Ursula and Robin Hood, and they're both like
they're both just
far up
rattling up there. And I think Robin Hood, to be fair, is just, and the same as Ursula. They're seeing playing decks. They're just solid value cards. They just fit into the color. Like, it's not like you don't have to build a Robin Hood deck. You don't have to build an Ursula deck. You're playing Steel, throw Robin Hoods in there. Yeah, you're playing Emerald in there and a couple of songs, throw Ursula in there. Like, they're just value. Same with Tragic Hero, right? It's a value card. It isn't a build around. It's just good stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, I then Enchanted we'll take a quick look at. Just I'm kind of curious because I traded. I think I did a bad trade. Yeah, I did a bad trade, but that's okay. That's okay. Those of you who follow the channel and follow the streams will know that my goal with Enchanted is I want one from each set, but it's the one I want. As in, like I pick before I pull anything and settle. I decide which is my chase, and now I'm gonna do everything in my power to get it. And I pulled a Robin Hood and a Sorcerer's Hat, and I traded them both for this beautiful lady that the camera will focus on any moment, I promise. Ooh, camera, there we go. Oh, look at her. She's so gorgeous. I regretted it for a second when I looked at the numbers, but now I'm looking at her again. I don't care. She's she's
That's
a
all
beauty.
that matters.
There she is, look. Kida in all of her glory. Yeah, so the guy I traded it with got a good deal, but then also so did I. And it was a weird trade, actually, because... Oh, thank you very much, James. Coming through with the donation. I appreciate you, buddy. That's going to help. Did you see our new goal, by the way? Our new donation goal? Because we hit the $100.
Road to Regionals.
Road to Regionals question mark. I thought, if there's ever a chance of us going, we're going to need some transport money. So that's what people are helping us get. Thank you, James. We appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. It's very generous. People keep asking me if I'm going to Gen Con or D23, and I'm like, no, I'm saving to go to regionals and to worlds and nationals and everything else that's coming that we don't have information on yet. It's stressing me out.
Yeah, we just hold on waiting. So there we go. There's my three. Annoyingly, they're not. There's two amber ones, but I've never wavered on this. They're the ones I've wanted every set, and that's how I'm sort of happy with the fact that I maybe didn't get the best deal there, and I'm not going to ever own all of them, but I'm getting the one that I think is the best looking one for me personally each set. So there we go. I'm happy with them, and they go there. I had the idea of getting the Funko Pop to match and sort of displaying them, but there's no cool. Treasure Planet Funkos. Or Atlantis, there's no Atlantis. There's no Atlantis Funkos. And the Sisu one looks creepy as hell as well, actually. so I was like, oh no, forget it. I've got off that idea already.
Yeah. Of course, there's no Atlantis Funko Pop. Justice for Atlantis, man.
Right,
it needs to come back.
But Robin Hood's trickling up, and then Jafar and Ursula are still up there. Ursula quite a bit up there.
Ursula's the second most expensive Enchanted, right behind Elsa.
Not hitting Elsa numbers quite yet though, and I feel like Elsa will always just hold the value there because there's just unless we see another set one reprint, which I'm just not sure we're going to, but who knows? We just don't know, right?
It does make me wonder if I know in other games the companies at least pretend like they don't see like the secondary market and let that affect reprints or whatever, but I do wonder whether or not Ravensburger is keeping up with that kind of thing and going, okay, cards are getting a little bit more expensive than we want them to be for people to like afford to play this game, so we'll reprint some cards and hopefully bring the value down a little or not.
I would rather them, and I've said this before, I would rather see a reprint set or cards reprinted with alternate art in future sets to keep the playable stuff available. Give me before I see another reprint of set 1, I'm happy to have set 5 be 230 cards and 25 of them be Dragonfire, Whole New World, Be Prepared, but with new arts or something like that. Like I think that's a much more elegant solution because it keeps the collectors happy that their set 1 stuff is still set 1 and will always be set 1, but it keeps the players happy that stuff is available. It keeps more casual collectors happy because it's new art, so they don't mind having to get new copies of them because they look different, and it keeps new players happy because they're always able to get hold of their staples. Like I feel like it's the most elegant solution. I'm sure people will disagree with me, but you know I'm right, so it's fine. I wouldn't. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Something popped up on the screen. Officially, they don't. I think Rochelle has said that before. Yeah, and you know, officially, Magic don't, but that's not true.
Yeah.
Like Magic really does. So they're doing their best to own the secondhand market with Secret Lairs. So it is what it is. Anyway, what do we want to do next? What do we want to talk about now?
I think next is the tournaments, right?
Yeah.
Going into the tournaments, there were quite a few. I listed 4. I think for us to talk about. We'll start with the triple case tournament at Cardhaven in Louisville. I don't know which one, how you're supposed to pronounce that one.
I would say that as Louisville, as
That's what I
opposed to
To
Louis
Louisville.
with the like OUIS.
OU, yeah.
That's like the sluggers, right? That's where Gamma is. You know the Louisville Slugger, the baseball bat.
No.
Come on, man, you're American. How do I know more about this than you?
No.
Yeah, Louisville Sluggers. They make baseball bats there. It's like a famous brand of baseball bat.
Cool.
Anyway, that's where Gamma is. That's where all of my colleagues are this week. But no, this is Louisville, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like there's only 6 decks that are here on Ink Decks. But I want to say a wide variety. There's a lot of steel. There's a good bit of amethyst, but I'll be honest, just not seeing half of these decks be ruby amethyst makes me happy.
Yeah, there's one. So obviously we're not seeing the full report here. There was 42 players. Triple case for 42 players is kind of incredible. And like, did they all pay $80? Like,
yeah, I don't know.
I haven't I could do some back of the vacuum mat.
There were a couple tournaments that happened this weekend like that. The one that Bivens went to, I think it was a 1K and only 15 people were there or something. So and I'm like, that math definitely doesn't add up.
Well, I mean, a lot of these like 1Ks will always say it paid out at 32, right? Like that. Like a lot of them will always say like 1K, but assuming we get 32 people. So it, you know, most likely just the prize money just scales, right? So. But yeah, so do you want? Is there anyone in particular? Do you want to take a look at the Cogsworth deck here, or?
Yeah, we can take a look at the Sapphire.
Just so I know what to put on the screen. That's all.
I haven't actually looked at a bunch of these lists before, but I'm glad we're looking at this one because this is a list for Sapphire Steel that I think is getting really popular and like doing very well. You still see the Flavershims and the Popsicles that are in there, pretty standard for Sapphire. Believe it or not, there's some people that are actually choosing to get rid of those. Because like you now have Beast, you have the Grandma Tala that is basically develop your brain on a stick. And like there's a couple other cards in both Sapphire and Steel that apparently give the ink combination the ability to not need Flavershim and Popsicle. The testing that I've seen leads me to believe that it's still good to play Flavershim and Popsicle because it's just a great draw engine when you can do it. Also, Flavershim can sing, and then along came Zeus, which is a very key card.
Hitting that 4 for the Zeus is probably what's keeping him around, honestly. Because otherwise, there's only a handful of things that are singing it. What I've noticed, I see happening a little bit now, is that like Flavershim is not a great top deck, you know, and these games that are getting dragged out a little bit, which you know. Arguably Sapphire still really wants to do, but if you've not got an item around, if your Popsicles have been popped and you top deck a Flavershim, it's not a great hit. Whereas there's very few points in the game you're not happy to draw a Tragic Hero or a Tinkerbell or a Cogs or basically anything else in the deck. Maybe the Mickey Mouse is probably the only other one that you're really not happy about seeing off the top.
I always wondered why Sapphire Steel decks ran so many Fishbone Quills because I didn't play the deck in Rise of the Floodborn. I didn't play it in the first chapter. I picked it up this weekend to try after seeing its success, and I'm very quickly understanding why people like this deck so much. And one of those reasons is because, like, when you play for Fishbone Quill, it's another item you have that Flaversham can hit that draws you two. And there, with when you're playing Whole New World, and also with just all of that draw that you have in the deck with Gaston and with Whole New World Beast, Develop Your Brain, Popsicle, etc. You're inking like 2 or 3 cards every turn, and so by the time you get to turn, like, I don't know, 10 or 12, and you just have a Fishbone on board, and you draw you top deck a Flaversham, and you have 17 ink in your inkwell because you've been just inking stuff all game. I've seen so many times with this deck where, like, they drop the Flaversham, draw 2 cards, they draw into a Gaston, they play the Gaston, they draw another card that draws them more cards, and like they just managed to throw out a handful of cards in one turn because of all of the ink that they can play because they've ramped so hard. And I think getting the Smee like has really helped this deck. Mr. Smee being able to pair it with the Captain Hook, because you can, like, in your more aggressive matchups where they struggled a little bit in the early game rushing you out, you can just play a Captain Hook and a Smee and you're good. Or even just a Smee, like, sometimes just being able to hit that is really good.
That's the thing that's really surprised me with me is, like, you don't even need the captain. Honestly, he's still great. You know, like, very rarely is your opponent swinging into him. You get 6 lore out of him, and then he dies. Like, a lot of time that's happening. I haven't played this build, but I've been playing him in a more casual. I say pirates deck, although him and Captain Hook are pretty much the only pirates in there. John Silver, you know, but it's a ruby steel build that's focused on sort of locations and pirates. And you're quite happy to just throw him down and let him ping damage. And it's just such a silly thing, but I just never saw the line until I saw this deck played at the weekend, and they had a Mr. Smee and a Cogsworth out, and Mr. Smee quested, and I went, oh!
He doesn't
like,
take
I genuinely was like, oh, that's neat.
And, like, it's on curve too, because you just place me on 2, you can Fishbone or Mickey on 3, and then Cogs the next turn, and then, like, you're fine. And so there's that. McDuck Manor is huge. Like, it was
literally huge
card, I think, last week. And that it was just for draft, just for sealed, because it had such big willpower. But even in constructed, people have found out that this card is massive. Like, it's basically replacing Bell, because you're gaining almost as much lore from these more consistently than Bell was. And it's a way to get around Be Prepared, which was arguably one of the more difficult matchups for this deck, because, like, you play your Cogsworth, you play a couple things out, and then when Ruby Be Prepares you have to sort of redevelop. Well, now, like, they can play Be Prepared, but if you have 1 or 2 McDuck Manors on board, you're still gaining a lot of lore. 9 willpower is so difficult to get rid of, and basically require, like, a card that I wasn't expecting to see much play, but has been seeing a lot of play, is Maui's Fishhook. And, like, Ruby's basically only response to a McDuck Manor to get it out immediately is a Maui and a Fishhook to give him exactly 9 strength into it. Otherwise, they have to do a bunch of other stuff to try to challenge into it.
And that's the thing as well, is I'm still hearing a lot of people say, oh yeah, but they can just throw everything into it. You know, they can just throw everything they've got into it, and it dies, and I'm like, great. They've took a whole turn off just turning their stuff sideways for me. Like, that's such a huge tempo shift. I don't think people quite understand that yet. I throw this down on 4. I've already got a couple of bodies there that are questing or whatever. If they sit and throw everything they've got into this mana, great. Because it's given me a whole turn with my stuff sat there. All their stuff is now sideways. I can do what I like with. It's just crazy huge.
It's also a great finisher too, because, like, when you're at 17 or 18 lore, and you're ahead, and you play 1 or 2 characters, and then also this location, it's like, okay, now there's not a single card that saves your opponent. Like, they can't Be Prepared, or they can't Tink Giant, grab your sword to clear your board and buy another turn. They have to have multiple answers to keep you from winning the game.
You can't deal with all of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it way harder to um, stop your opponent from winning the game in that scenario,
Hmm.
which kind of ties into another card in this list that I honestly wasn't expecting to see much play this early, and is the most like your sideboard are the cards you ink
Yeah.
card that I've ever seen,
This is
which is
Titans,
Rise
right?
of the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this card is great in the mirror match because you can get rid of the McDuck Manor. It answers
Hmm.
the Queen Castles. It answers RLS Legacy. You know, all the locations that are seeing play. They're
Hmm.
really strong for similar reasons that McDuck Manor is played. And you can also target items.
So
So
it
like
gets rid of the Quillon curve, right? Like
yeah, yeah, exactly.
if you're on the draw.
And so it's a really good card and it's inkable. So
Hmm.
like in Ruby Amethyst, well, no, they have Queen's Castle. I'm trying to think. In like Emerald Steel, where you're probably not going to run into a location or
Yeah.
an item, you
Hmm.
just ink it
Yeah.
because like you're not going to need it, and like it doesn't feel bad at all, especially because this deck can draw a bunch of cards. But yeah, I think this is a really cool list. If anyone's interested in like trying this ink combination out, you definitely should. It's honestly not the most expensive either, other than the beast
Just the
that's
beasts,
in there. The
really. Yeah.
Dragon Beast. Everything else is pretty cheap to get. The whole new
Hmm.
worlds are a little expensive too, but if you have a bunch of cards from previous sets and you've been following Lorcana for a little while, like try this deck out. It's really good, and there's probably other stuff that you could put in outside of Beast if you didn't have four of them.
Hmm. Hmm.
But really
Yeah.
solid deck, and for all the reasons that we mentioned earlier in the stream, like this deck does really well countering Medusa and a lot of the Emerald stuff and other steel decks that are being played as well. So really cool,
Yeah.
really awesome deck list.
Um, and then like other stuff of note in that tournament, like you say, just not seeing Ruby Amethyst bounce, to be honest, is great. There's one there in third. The Emerald Steel. I've been really enjoying this myself personally.
Hmm.
This is an interesting build. This really leans into the floodborne nature of it with Bucky and Bogo, and even running our girl Helga. Look, which
Oh,
is
girl, Helga,
yeah,
yeah,
this is awesome to see because obviously Helga after Bogo is kind of
pretty
good,
gross.
but
Yeah.
I still feel like it's a bit too like whatever this came second, but like I still feel like it's a bit too niche to really pop off a lot. But uh, yeah, this
Yeah,
is it's interesting.
it's weird because I definitely agree. Like, this isn't a combo that I would think would be optimal in this
Hmm.
ink pairing, especially because they're both uninkable. But yeah, like this was a 42-person tournament. Like, it was definitely, a decent turnout, and I'm sure not easy to get second place in. So there must be something there. That's fun to see Helga do
Mm.
well.
I mean, it looks honestly looking at it, I'm like, oh my god, there's loads of inkables. But it's 18. There's 18 uninkables. Perfectly acceptable number, really. A little on the higher end, but overall, you know,
Yeah, I think that's a lot of uninkables.
18.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
that's a lot of uninkables.
I think it's about as high as I'd like to go. But I've been playing some decks with 20 and not really struggling. I think it also this is probably a little worse because they're all high cost uninkables. I feel a lot better about like thinking about it. The ones where I'm playing 20, four of them are Curse Merfolk. Four of
Yeah,
the like a one cost uninkable is a lot easier to swallow than 5 and 6 drops, I guess. So yeah, but
yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
interesting
just fun to see
'cause
something different.
I was we'll get to this list later, but Bivens list that he won with
Hmm.
at his tournament, I picked it up and started playing a little bit afterwards, and it only
Yeah,
runs like 13 uninkables, and I
yeah.
found myself running into like bricked hands
Oh,
just
really?
because they were more expensive uninkables. So
I
seeing this at 20 or at 18 is
just seems a
surprising.
lot. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
The one thing I find with just steel in general is I always seem to have two whole new worlds in my hand. Like I just
Yeah.
always seem to end up with that, and I'm like, great, off the mulligan or something, you know.
Yeah.
I do think that Zach's list is a bit more consistent than this. I think probably just has some sort of better answers. This is a little bit more a solitaire deck. I feel like it knows exactly what it wants to do, and it's gonna try and just get rid of your board through its perfect line. Whereas I think Zach's list is can be a little bit more reactionary, maybe. But we'll look at that in a moment. Yeah, so we've only got the 6 of the 42 there. I don't think there's anything else I particularly want to look at there. So we can move on to Evolves, maybe?
Yeah. The Evolve Win a Case tournament. It had 21 players. And this is a bit less diverse of a top. It looks like there's 3 Ruby Amethyst, 3 Emerald Steel, and 2 Amethyst Steel lists.
I mean, you could argue that that's still more diverse than the end of the set 2 meta.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm still not upset with that. Like, if this meta rounds out and there's a solid 3 top decks, I'll take that all day long versus what we had last set. And like, I know people will argue that there were multiple top decks, but it's just
Ryan Miller himself will argue that with you.
Yeah,
I would disagree with that statement, but
I would too. Like, I don't know. There were decks that won tournaments that weren't Ruby Amethyst, but I think you were intentionally putting yourself at a disadvantage if you weren't playing Ruby Amethyst last set for a tournament.
Whereas here it feels like there genuinely are, at least for now, more viable options. And as I was listening to, I think it was the Citizens Lorcana podcast with Scott, who writes for the TCG Player. And he said we don't need to see Ruby Amethyst get worse. We just need to see other decks come up and rise up to it, right? And I feel like that's what we're seeing here. Ruby Amethyst is still very playable, very strong.
Yeah, like it didn't get any worse.
Franz, stop shouting.
Franz, you're wrong. I'm just sorry. But like, that's the thing. Ruby Amethyst didn't get worse. Like, I think a lot of other decks just got the stuff they needed to finally keep up with it. You know,
100%.
Which is awesome.
So here then the deck is called WTF. Sure. And again, play like you see a couple of little things here. You see 3 copies of the Jafar. Like, I feel like that Jafar is just there for the Bucky hits.
Yeah, like, I think it's there for the Bucky hits. I think it's also, because like you can.
I suppose it sings Along Came Zeus.
You can play like Bucky or Morph on turn 2, do something on turn 3, and then play. Or I guess you have to play Morph. You play Morph on turn 2. Do something on turn 3, maybe play Bucky. But if you need to, you can play a Bucky on turn 4 and shift Jafar on turn 4 all at once and kind of hit him with that.
I've done that actually in set 2. Because I played Emerald Steel in set 2 quite a bit. That was really leaning into the Floodborn stuff with Bucky, and that was quite a common line. To be honest, was have the evasive Jafar on 2.
Oh yeah.
Something on 3, and then Bucky and Dreadnought on 4.
Yeah, but I don't think Jafar Dreadnought is a bad card. Like it's a card that will stall your opponent from questing if they have anything that
it maybe slows them down a little.
Yeah, which I think is kind of what this deck wants to do, because like. If your opponent's going too fast, you don't have the time to set up the Bucky discard stuff or find your whole new world and set that up. So delaying it a little bit, I think, is fine. And like, Jafar is a very like not mediocre, but he's just not amazing. But I think he's fine.
I feel like this deck it's almost built for the mirror, and I think it's probably built to really do well against Emerald Amethyst, which out the gate was like the strong deck. Just seeing like the kits, the Jafars, the strengths, and the storms, like it's all just stuff to get rid of that early value. They all get rid of the Ursulas all day long, that stuff. So,
and oh my goodness, the Ursula comboing with strength or let the storm rage on, just being
Oof.
able to like double hit something.
Yeah.
It feels too good every
Hmm.
time when I have like 3 or 4 characters on board and I can do 8 damage to something with Strength of a Raging Fire, seeing it
Yeah.
with Ursula. Like
Yeah. I like
it's
you say, even 4 damage draw 2 is
yeah,
crazy good, right? From a
yeah.
3 cost singing.
There were plenty
Um,
of times that I'd play Ursula on 3, and then on 4, I sing Let the Storm Rage On and get to take out the 2 early characters that my opponent had played,
mhm.
and now I have, now completely changed the tempo of that game.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
Interesting to see a couple of copies of Stout Hearted here as well. It makes sense, I guess. It's a Floodborne focused deck. It's got a lot of songs, but
Mhm.
that's another one that just hasn't really seen as considering it was the top end of this deck in 2. Hasn't
Yeah.
seemed to find a home just yet in 3. So it's interesting to see a couple of copies of that there. I wonder whether it's just a little too slow.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting pick for this past weekend specifically, especially since we didn't see as much Sapphire unless this was a like meta call. Because
Hmm.
now that we've seen a bunch of Sapphire and we see
Yeah.
Cogsworth specifically seeing more play, I see a bunch of people. Well, I see a lot of people that are playing the Sapphire deck saying we need to start running like Let It Goes and stuff now because
Yeah.
Cinderellas are going to start coming out
Yeah.
to challenge our Cogsworths.
Yeah. Cinderella's going to go into Cogsworth after a song's been sang all day long, right? Like
Yeah.
that's absolutely the tech there. So yeah, and that's how I remember having this conversation a couple of times with people where they've said, well, why does the meta shift? Because the cards aren't changing. And that
Mhm.
what you've just said then is an exact example of how that happens. Oh,
Yeah.
Cogsworth's good against all the pingy steel stuff.
Mhm.
So Cogsworth gets loads of play. How do we deal with Cogsworth? Oh, Cinderella's a great answer because she can hit it because you're never turning Cogsworth sideways. Oh,
Yeah.
now everyone's playing Cinderella. How do we deal with that? Let It Go is a great answer for Cinderella in a color that's also playing Cog. And that's what happens. It's just all the oil rises each time, and you just see these shifts. It's a really good example of it, I think.
Mhm. But yeah, I'll look at I'm gonna look at this other list. It doesn't well, they're running Prince John's in the next list, which I haven't loved. I've run into a couple of these that are running the Prince John's and they just don't seem it doesn't seem like they get very much value,
No,
especially in a deck where you're playing like Whole New World and Beast and Let the Storm Rage On already, like playing a
yeah.
bunch of stuff that draws cards.
I think
Um
I've gone off Prince John quite a bit, mostly because it's like that's your turn 2 and 3.
mhm.
Before you've even started getting any sort of value out of them, really. Like you're so sure about getting those down on 2 and 3, and yes, they both have ward, but they also are super squishy to swords.
Mhm.
Big tink, things like that. So I feel like you just put so much effort into building the engine, and it just gets shut down before you really start seeing value out of it. Um, but yeah, there's some other interesting ones in here. Donald Duck, I don't think he's going to keep up the pace now, especially with
No.
that 2. It's just so many stuff that's going to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Espion. But
Yeah, I think Donald's a little slow, and like there's too many good Floodborns now that I feel like you need to run Donald because I feel like before it felt like you needed to run Floodborn Donald just to have another like ish Floodborn to
yeah,
discard
hmm
from
hmm
early. But I mean, and now we have with the new set, we've got so many good Floodborns in these colors that I don't even think it's necessary anymore.
Michelle says Cinderella has past issues with clocks. This is true. She's not a fan.
True.
Not a fan of clocks. Very
Now I want to
thematic.
know. Now I want to know. Like, was that intentional or is this just a
I mean,
deck thing?
that's
'Cause
deep. That's like
it's deep.
multiple layers of.
It is, but there have been cards already that have gone that deep. Like, I would not be surprised if somebody was like, the counter to Grandfather Clock needs to be Cinderella. How funny would that be?
That's great. Yeah. So yeah, interesting. Again, just nice to see some different options in there, different stuff getting teched in and out. But yeah, a lot of stuff here I think will quickly get outpaced as people settle down. It's great that people are trying stuff, but but like seeing 4 copies of Sudden Chill is kind of crazy. Excuse me, kind of crazy to me. Like I'm not sure there's the value there, even off the double singing.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. I haven't tested with Sudden Chill to know how it feels, but everybody that I've talked to that has says it doesn't feel good enough. So I'll trust them.
All right. Do you want to look at anything else from that one, or?
I'm trying to look at some of these Ruby Amethyst lists.
Mm-hmm.
The third place one is very interesting, to be honest with you. They're running a one of Prince Eric, a one of Dragonfire. They're running 2 Hydras, which is I think fun. I've heard a couple people say that like Hydras at Loki. For the Evolve Win a Case tournament.
Have I messed up? Did I close that one? I might have closed that one. Hold on. I'll bring it back up again. Give me 1 second.
Were you on?
I was on the triple case tournament. Where's the Evolve one?
Oh, I thought we moved on from that.
No, we did. I've lost it for some reason. It's okay. I'll find it real quick. You carry on talking about it. You can describe it perfectly.
It's just a very interesting, like I don't know. The numbers are fun on this one. They're also playing Last Ditch Effort. Do you remember what that card is without looking at it?
It's Maui. It's like a creepy Maui on the art.
Yeah.
And what doesn't it? It exerts something of theirs, and red is one of yours or something, or gives one of yours rush. No, that'd be good.
It gives it Challenger. I don't know if you're ready for your characters.
Hold on.
That's an interesting card to see play, mainly because it's uninkable, and I think in Ruby Amethyst, the uninkable slots are already pretty slim.
Oh yeah, 3-costed uninkable. Exert chose an opposing character, then a character of yours gains Challenger 2. I mean, it's got to be a hell of a specific board state to get value out of that, hasn't it?
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's a really interesting list. Running Rafikis too. I haven't seen those since set 1. I did see somebody mention something today about running.
Oh yeah, Rafiki. The 3-drop. I was because the 1-drop Rafiki I actually think is pretty good.
Oh yes,
But yeah, no, the 3-drop one. Yeah, look at that. Huh.
Yeah, some very interesting text in this
just
deck,
the one-offs blow my mind. I don't understand why people play one-offs. Like I don't get it.
I used to think the same thing, and I actually don't know if the math on this is right. I'm gonna pretend like it is, and if it's not, chat will tell me. But I saw somebody mention this weekend that when you're playing a deck where you normally see like at least half of your deck, it's pretty okay to play one-ofs, because that means usually like 1 in every 2 games you should see this card.
Yeah, 50%. If you see 30 cards of the deck, 50% of the time you'll see it.
Yeah, which then I thought about that. I'm like, if there's a card that you're teching just for a matchup, I think a one-of is fine in that scenario. If you're playing a deck that you see most of the deck, most of your games, because then you're just more likely to see it, and you can dig for it pretty heavily, I think, when you need it. And otherwise, you don't need it. It's more difficult, I think, with uninkable cards, because then it's like you see it and it doesn't matter in this matchup, so it's kind of a waste. But especially with inkable cards, like I think it's the last tournament we'll talk about, the Lorcana twins, them running the one of Grandma Tala.
Yeah.
I at first I was like, that's a little interesting. I wondered if it was because they only had one, or if that was intentional. I was talking with them earlier and I didn't think to ask, but having played a couple games with that list, there was like 1 or 2 games where I happened to draw the Tala and I was like, oh, this is actually perfect. But like I wouldn't run multiple of these cards, but it happened to be good in the moment. So
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a play choice as well, like a play style choice. Me personally, when I try and put a deck together, I want to have 15 cards that I'm kind of happy to see any one of them at any point in the game. Like that's probably a little bit too good to be true, but that's how I try and build decks. I like it. If I see this late game, it's ink. If I see this early, it's great. I don't know, these little techie cards that might be good half the time when you see them. I don't know. Someone get 9 for the math. Blake says,
yeah,
you don't need Knive's great at math, but you don't need him for that. If there's a one of, in a deck of 60 and you see 30 cards of your deck, most games you will see the 1 out 50% of the time. That's not like high level probability. That's pretty easy. That's pretty easy math. Basically the same card, or the same use for each pair. Eric versus Dragonfire. I don't know. I think I almost feel like I prefer Eric.
I think I overvalued Eric.
Yeah?
I don't think he's as good of a card as I was giving him credit
for. Like, you don't think he's as good as you don't think he's as good. Oh, see, I think I really like him. Yes,
the times
Kit
that I've
bounces
played with
him.
Yeah, like he feels really slow,
Yeah,
and a lot of times I feel like I need an answer immediately, not the next turn.
not there.
Or like
yeah,
a lot of and well, let me preface this. I haven't been playing him in a list like Ruby Amethyst. I was playing a Amber Ruby list. It was a bit different. It was like a Mufasa list, which was very fun. I don't know how like it was good enough that I could see somebody topping with it. I don't know that it's like a top tier deck, but it was fun. Anyway, when I was playing Eric in that deck, it always felt like I needed an answer now, not play him and then wait till the next turn. And then on top of that, I constantly felt like I was playing Eric just to run him into something and banish that one thing, which felt
banish the same thing. Yeah,
that's
fair. I was often quite happy to put him down on 4, honestly, and it either adjusted their game plan, or it didn't, and I killed 2 things, or I could just start questing with him and then be like, all right, cool, you get rid of him, and then we'll figure it out. Like I say, also though, Kit bounces him. But that's about it, really. Like pretty much any other answer to him, at the minute at least, is at least having to make them think about how they get rid of him.
I feel like Prince Eric doesn't usually take 2 cards though. Like I find most of the time you play Prince Eric, you go, oh dang it, now they can like choose whatever they want to banish, and so you quest with the thing they're going to banish, and they run it into that. Prince Eric doesn't banish it because it's a Robin Hood or a Tragic Beast or an Ursula or something. Yeah,
I think that's So a lot of the time you might have to put Eric the second thing into something. Like it goes quite well with like like a Fox or something going in first, and then the Eric finishing him off or something. But I don't know. You're right in as much as there's something to be said about the turn later just having a Dragonfire and killing whatever you like. But I'm a big fan of cards that make the opponent stop thinking about what they're trying to do and adjust. Like I find there's a lot of value in just having them have to take a moment and reevaluate the board a lot more. But yeah, sometimes
and I will
just
say
picked off.
I think Eric's a good card. Like I'm not saying I think he's a bad card now. I think he's still really good. I just don't think he was like as game breaking as I thought he was going to be.
Perhaps. I actually think he's more playable in Ruby Amethyst than Jim Hawkins is. Because I know a lot of people are trying to find a home for Jim Hawkins in that deck as well. Because the 2 4-drop locations that you're probably going to play, the Queen's Castle and the RLS Legacy, both pretty good, I think. Obviously, are even better if the turn later Jim can play them for nothing. But yeah, the 4 slot in this deck is very muddy. You've got a lot of stuff there. So, but yeah, the one-offs are kind of crazy. All right. What's next?
Next is the GSG Lorcana 1K. This is the one that Zach Bivens. I'd like to call him a friend of the show. I don't know if he would agree with that or not. He's a kind guy.
I've talked to him on Twitter.
I've DM'd him. I've talked to him on Twitter and stuff. I'll call him friend of the show. Really, really awesome competitive Lorcana player. He won this 15 player 1K. He's notorious for Steel Song, Amber Steel.
Yeah.
And rocked everyone's world when he showed up with Amber Steel or Emerald Steel instead, and did really well with it. He ended up winning. They were some really close games that were commentated by our friends Liam from the Lumineers and Jack Patillo.
Yeah, they did a great job. It was a really good stream.
They did. They did. It
The
was
very
entertaining.
last game was
Oh man,
incredible. It was so
it
good.
was great. Yeah, it's
just
like
because
everything
Zach
you want out
was,
of the finals game.
yeah, Zach was just absolutely on the back foot for the good, like 2/3 of the game probably. Just did not have a great start. Had a really clunky hand. I think at one point he had like 2 whole new worlds and a grab your swords or something in his hand for like turn 2, 3, and 4. Or so. I can't quite remember now, but it was really clunky hand. And you're just sitting there thinking, oh man, he's not getting anywhere with this. And then just managed to just slowly grab that value back and slowly pinch the board back. It was really awesome to watch. Like really just great to see a good deck and a skilled player piloting it.
That was the main thing for me. Is like I feel like it was relatively easy to see, to kind of keep up with what was in his hand. And it was just awesome to see somebody so skilled pilot their way out of such a bad like starting situation.
The sort of situation that
work.
I would have I'd have scooped. Like it looked that bad.
And oh man, I remember he like needed an inkable card because he had a whole new world and he had a Beast Tragic Hero in hand at one point.
Yeah.
And he was like starting to catch up. I think he had a Bucky or 2. And he would like needed to play the Beast so that he could sing Whole New World, and he drew an uninkable card. Yeah. I remember just being like, I have to ink this Beast, and I'm gonna have to hard cast Whole New World next.
That was
turn.
it. And he did it. And that hard casting Whole New World never feels good.
No,
because it's just you're basically saying, not only do I pass, here's 7 cards.
Yeah, I'm gonna refill your hand. Now you go.
Yeah.
So I really like this list. Like I said earlier in the stream, I tested it after he won with it.
Yeah.
The Beast Relentless, I think, are really cool. Obviously, you don't see the combo in this deck with the Bayou, but something really fun you can do with Beast Relentless is if you can get it on board and he sticks, you can use Beast Relentless to sing all of your damage songs, and every time he sings them and damages something, hopefully banishing it, he readies so you can sing the next song. So you can just like play all of your damage actions and songs just songs for free with Beast, and then quest for them afterwards. So that's pretty fun. I thought it was really cool to see only 3 Whole New Worlds. Usually in Whole New Worlds deck, I feel like you see 4 or you don't see any. So interesting to see that there were only 3 in this deck. And I will say, Googly Glimmers pointed this out. It was the first time he played the list too.
That's right,
yeah. So
somebody else had built it, right?
So I want to say it was like RMB, Wonderland, a couple people that I don't remember that like helped put this list together. And I guess he got with him or talked to them or watched him play it and picked it up. I think he changed one thing. I think there's 4 morph in their lists, and I don't remember what the other switch is, but Zach went with 3 morphs here. Oh, I think it was only 3 Along Came Zeus. I think it was 4 morph and 3 Along Came Zeus, and I think he switched those 2. But other than that, the list is exactly the same. And
I think that seems like a fair swap as well, because yes, you are playing a good chunk of Floodborns, but you're also playing most of the Floodborns. You're kind of happy to play them on their curve as well, though, right? Or just sort of place them down. Beast is great if he comes down early, but you don't necessarily need him to be coming down dry.
Yeah.
And same with Big Tink. It's nice to get her down and get her swinging into stuff, but even just her coming down and pinging everything for 1 is still a lot of value. So I can see where the morph has been cut there. I've also been playing with a slightly different one just because of the cards I have available. So mine's just running the 2 Tragic Heroes and the 3 Deceiver of Alls, and then a few other things are a bit more fleshed out. But yeah, it's really great fun. I find it's funny because I found myself on the back foot a lot and then coming in with the win about 2/3 in. So maybe that's just how this deck works. Squizmatic says in the chat there, must have been at the event. The atmosphere in the room was crazy. There were probably 20 people watching the store, and when he hit that double Bucky discard, and Rudy just didn't even look at the cards. Yeah, I remember that happening as well.
Yeah.
He drew two.
He just like took him off the top, set him down.
What was it from? Because he just knew it was coming, right? I can't remember where the two came from.
Two cards.
Yeah, but there was two.
I don't think it was a. Was it a rabbit? Like, did he banish two rabbits or something?
Oh yes, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, I think he grabbed your swords to finish off two rabbits or something, and Rudy just took the two off top of the deck and just placed them face down, knowing that there was a floodborn. I think it was a Jafar Dreadnought came down as well or something, and just put them straight into the discard. It was just like,
oh man, I felt
so bad for the guy.
Yeah, I felt so bad for Rudy, but it was also just, it was a game that was too good to like watch. It might be one of the best Lorcana games that I've watched so far.
It
like,
was really good. It just did everything you wanted to see it do. It just come back, just a great comeback, and really good. Just a good deck, good pilot. Rudy played well, played great as well. You know, this was game 3 of the 3, right? Like it had gone, it got 1, 2, 3. There is something to be said. I'm hearing it quite a bit that the current meta feels very dice rolly, in as much as the first turn, is really, really strong at the moment. Just things like Ursula, Kit, bare necessities. Just like whoever gets that down first is just getting so much value. Do you think that's a fair statement?
I have an interesting opinion on this, and I think it comes from me not having played as many games as a lot of the other people that are saying this, because I hear this a lot from pro players or competitive players who've probably played hundreds of games more than I have, and also keep track of that kind of thing. I'm really bad about mentally keeping note of I went first or second that game and I lost or won. Because I don't feel that way. Like there's plenty of times that I play and test where I'm going second with any deck and I do fine. And I don't know if that's because of the people that I'm playing against. I don't know if that's reflective of like the piloting has more to do with, than the die roll. I know that Ryan mentioned in that interview from Canes that their numbers say that the difference is only like 53%, win rate.
And they also say that there are 3 decks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like take that with however you want to take it. So I don't know. Like
the Ravensburger Department of Truth.
I don't trust myself enough to say I'm not really running into the problem. So I don't think it's actually a problem, because I see a lot of other people that are like much better players than I am saying that.
I don't even necessarily it's a better player thing, but just people that have more data on this sort of stuff than we do, perhaps. Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know. I don't see it as bad as like I think people are making it out to be, because the amount that I see people complaining about it would make you think that like every time somebody went first they won, or it was like a 70% win rate going first. And I mean, there have been plenty of watching the tournament this weekend, or the multiple tournaments this weekend. There were plenty of players that I was following who said they went second like 7 out of their 9 rounds, or however many it was, and like still managed to make it into the top 8 or the top 16. And I think a lot of it comes down to that, being a really good pilot at the end of the day can be really good. Maybe you're still at a disadvantage, but
you can mitigate that disadvantage better, perhaps. Yeah. All right, last one to look at then was a 2K from Bunker Gaming. It's had 44 players. We don't have huge results here, just first place and then a selection of top 8. But I think this is the only Amber Steel we've seen across the weekend in the top 8. So I was going to have a little look at that. But yeah, first place here goes to Cogsworth and friends. I'll be honest with you. I'm a huge. This is the Lorcana twin build that you
Yeah,
were talking about before. I love
yeah.
the and friends moniker for decks. I think it's great. I just love pointing out just one card. Like obviously there are a lot of cards in this deck that hold it together, but there's always one that sort of stands out.
Hmm.
And this one being Cogsworth. But some great little pieces in this. I mean, just seeing that Robin Hood from set one.
Yeah.
Just is just awesome to see. A couple of Hades in there, and then yeah, just that one Grand Martala. Does Ink Decks automatically use an Enchanted if there is one? Is that the idea
I
here?
think so, because I don't think
Kind of annoys
they
me
would
that, to be
bring
honest with
it.
you, because they don't read straight away to me. I have to always have a good look
Yeah,
at them.
yeah, I see that in a lot of places that show cards. They'll use the Enchanted instead, and I'm like, I see the regular card more than I see the Enchanted card. So
Yeah,
that's what sticks out the most.
I
The
wonder whether
Enchanted.
Inkdex automatically uses the highest rarity, because if you look, the Captain Hook and the Robin Hood
Yeah,
here are D23 and the Mickey
D23
Mouse
card.
Detective is promo. Like I always felt like this is not the deck they were using. There's no They were not
No,
running 2 copies of Robin Hood from D23.
no. God, could you imagine?
um,
But yeah, an interesting list. A little bit different than what we're seeing more typically. I think with the Sapphire Steel thing, a lot of people are off the Hades primarily because of Madame Medusa. It's just another thing that she can kill
yeah,
right after you ramp your opponent. So they
yeah.
usually are off with that. I like Grandma Tala because she's not hit by Madame
Mm.
Medusa and she has so much willpower. And I don't think you ever run more than like one or two of her really.
Hmm.
But it is just one of those like I'll play her when I have 17 lore and I'm playing Fishbone Quills and Mickey Mouse Detectives
Hmm.
and cards that I can ink. So or ways that I can ink more than once a turn.
Well,
So
I mean that she's worst case scenario. She's a spell book that doesn't require the 2 ink, right?
yeah.
Like you can just still just ink every turn if you've got no other ramp going on. You've already got
Mhm.
you've already havishamed your quills. Your Mickeys have all done their work. If nothing else happens, she can sit there, be very difficult to get rid of with an 8
Mhm.
on the butt, and just draw, discard. That's one more ink. You're on a clock at that point.
Yeah,
Um,
and Lorcana Twin's not even running the shift targets for
Well,
Tala.
that's the next
Any
thing I
of
was going
them.
to say. I can't even remember what the shift target is.
Well, there's
She's
a
is
two
she?
drop that goes into your inkwell
Oh
when she's
yes, yeah,
damaged,
from set
and
one. Yeah.
then there's the 4 drop, which actually isn't a bad card. She's one of the cards that people are subbing out for Flavorstrom and Popsicle
Mm,
because she's just develop your brain on a stick. She's a
that's the one, right?
3/3.
Yeah, she comes
I
down
think
and
she
does
has
develop your
one
brain.
more. I don't remember how much lore she has. I think it's just one, but yeah, look at the top 2 cards, put one in your hand and the other on the bottom of your deck. Um,
Yeah, I can see her replacing Flaversham. I still think you're running Popsicle just for the filtering. Um, occasionally you'll heal a bit of damage up on something. It might help you trade somewhere, but I mean, this deck
yeah,
just isn't fighting, is it? Really,
no,
it might be nice to heal your beast back up after they've pinged it, because
right.
I find that happens a lot. I've had people like grab your swords when all I've got is a beast just to
Yeah,
stop the
just to
card
put
draw.
in.
Yeah. So obviously it doesn't happen for a turn because it's got to get back to you before you can banish the Popsicle. But if you've not got the Harams in there to pop it, maybe that's all it does.
Mm-hmm.
But keeps your SME ticking maybe.
Yeah, keeps your SME
Yeah.
ticking. If your Cogsworth gets damaged somehow,
Hmm.
like it's being threatened by a Tink or grab your swords, you can heal your Cogsworth
Yeah.
back up out of that range.
But yeah, this is it's just great to see some cards coming in that just haven't really seen play. Like Gaston, very playable at the minute.
Yeah,
Seems just did not see anything
lots
in
of
set two.
play.
You know.
Yeah. And I don't really know why that was. Somebody with a more wrinkly brain than me can probably tell me why he wasn't played in Rise of the Floodborn. But yeah, like he was a relatively good card in Rise of the Floodborn too, and just didn't see much play. And now when I watch other people pilot this deck, like you really see how strong he is
Hmm.
because sometimes you get in those top deck scenarios, and like when you top deck a Gaston, that you can just play to draw a card and threaten 3 lore on
3
a
lore
body.
is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that like can't be bounced, can't be hit by Medusa, has to have some sort of hard removal.
Hmm.
Or you have to have Along Came Zeus, because all the other steel removal doesn't banish him
Yeah.
either. Like, pretty good card.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can totally see a little like 2-drop steel Gaston in the future as well, which,
Yeah,
maybe
I
even
can see it
slots into
still.
something like this as well. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a cool deck.
Hmm.
I don't know whether I want to play it. Just, I don't know. Sapphire just doesn't enthuse me. But I also don't want to come up against it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wonder how much this deck will increase in popularity, because one of the reasons I didn't play Sapphire Steel until now is because I always heard about how difficult the deck was to pilot. Like, there were
Mm,
just a bunch of lines you had to know, and it was very matchup dependent on like what you mulligan for and what your opening lines were, so that you
mhm,
didn't die too early, or so that you had your answers in the mid game when you needed them, because you're basically just ramping into the mid game for the first couple turns.
mhm.
So I kind of stayed away from it, because I was like, I don't want to put this much effort into playing a deck. But
Yeah.
having
I
picked
just
it
want to
up,
put Lilos down and turn them sideways.
yeah, exactly. Like, I just want a straightforward game plan, and it works or it doesn't.
Mhm.
But I've enjoyed it so far. It's like it's been really good. I've had a fire lit inside of me after this weekend to just play
Yeah.
more games and get better. Mainly because the meta is so much more diverse
There's
than it
just
has
something to
been.
be said about just seeing different decks. Actually, talking of Lilos and different decks, I did say I wanted to have a quick look at this Amber Steel, just because I think it's
Yeah.
it's pretty much the only Amber we've seen
Hmm.
this weekend, and there's not much of it. It's this is a
No.
steel deck. This is a mono steel deck with a little
Yeah.
sprinkle of color.
This is an
Um,
interesting list
it's
too.
crazy, eh? Like, yeah, just looking at this now, it's running some really interesting pieces. The Bayou in there, like, I suppose it's fine on
Just
one.
in time is an interesting pick to me.
Yeah,
You're running Robin Hood, Kita, and Beast with Just in Time
and yeah, so you're running, yeah,
and Lawrence.
but you're also running full set of Robin Hoods and the Steel Keeters to shift.
Yeah.
So you really like it. This deck really wants to get them down on 3, but I don't even feel like Keeta on 3 is particularly strong. Really, Keeta is it's kind of the end of the game for you. Really, you want to be once your board's
Yeah.
built up, you want to throw her down. I feel like I don't know what value are you getting out of playing her on 3, shifted onto the bodyguard. I just don't know.
I don't know either. The best thing that I've seen is like when you're using Pluto to ramp stuff out, like
Hmm.
shifting Kita out to protect your Pluto, because usually you get one ramp off with Pluto and then he's
Yeah,
banished.
yeah. Pluto
Like,
dies if you don't play a 2-drop bodyguard.
yeah.
Basically, yeah.
And so like that is okay, I guess, but otherwise I don't know, because really you're only protecting your Robin Hood probably, so that you can maybe shift a Robin Hood next turn too. I don't know.
And that
This is an
4
interesting
cost
list.
captain hook
Yeah,
that
with
gets fire the
no
cannons, but not fire the
no
cannons.
cannons. Yeah, like, why is he in this deck? It's an uninkable.
he
What is happening?
he sings Along Came Zeus, I guess. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, as weird as this deck is, I do appreciate the decision of the pilot to say we're not going to go wild with all the amber lines that there are, because I feel like Amber can struggle a little bit with or Amber Steel can struggle a little bit with consistency when you're trying to like run a Pluto line and a Kita line and a Robin Hood and also your
Hmm.
Beast and Tinkerbell and like all these other ones, because they have so many good cards that they can play that are
Hmm.
Floodborn that you can shift out early, that a lot of times you get half your pieces to all of your puzzles, and like then you just can't do anything. The deck kind of bricks and is too slow. Um, but this deck, it's like we're just doing the Kita, we're just doing the Robin Hood, and we can just in time those out, or we can just in time a Beast out. And everything else I think is geared a little bit more towards just like keeping up with the mid game when you don't see those lines. So
yeah,
there's only
just
one whole
dealing
new
with
world
stuff.
too.
Like,
The more I look at
congratulations to
this deck,
Unknown.
yeah,
Congratulations to Unknown, who somehow got this to the top 8 of 44 players. That's great.
yeah, this is. I don't know. The longer I look at this
It's
deck,
expensive as well. That deck, like, that's a pricey deck.
Good grief, it is almost $600.
Well, yeah, because it's going to be running. Because it's running
Robin Hoods,
Robin Hoods, the Beasts. Like Kita's
Rapunzel.
up there. Rapunzel's still up there.
Kita's like $10.
Is
I
she
think.
really?
I don't think it's that expensive. Yeah.
Okay.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, $10 for Kita, I guess. Yeah. Well, there you go. That was good fun. This list has to be wrong. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, I will say, I think Ink decks do incredible work. But I will say the one tournament of mine that they reported on it was quite wrong. So maybe.
Really?
But yeah, they do a lot. I don't know what their team looks like, but man, they put a lot into it, and there's a lot coming out of it. So, and it's a great resource, and it's really good for us to take a look at, even if maybe there is some stuff that. Give me the 31 uninkable deck over that every day. So what was that? That was part of. I don't know whether it's on here.
In the ninth place list on the report for the GSS tournament, I think, or GSG, he said, let's see.
Is it all gas, no inkables? Is that it?
But it has 31 uninkables.
Yeah, here we go. It's here.
I have to go find it.
It's here. It was part of the one that Zach
Okay, I see it.
It's running. It's amber. It's amethyst sapphire. It's running a playset of 1 jump ahead, Mickey Mouse Detective, a single copy of Sorcerer's Spellbook, a playset of How Far I'll Go.
Yeah. Oh, Friend Like Me Too.
2 copies
of what's happening.
2 copies of Pinocchio, a playset of Gaston, a playset of Hades, a playset of Ursula, a playset of Elsa. Woof.
I see what's happening here, and I kind of get it. like
I'm never gonna ink normally.
Yeah. I will never put a card from my hand into the inkwell.
Yeah.
Still, that's wild though, because so many of your uninkables are your top end, and like, what happens?
I don't. What? Yeah, but like, okay, ignore the fact that it's all uninkable and that there's loads of like ramp. What else does the deck do? Like, what's Crab doing just on his own?
Well, Crab's for Mickey to
Crab makes Mickey a fox, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like Crab is there because you need to be able to trade with some stuff, I guess.
I suppose once Mickey's down, he can just die and take something out with him, I guess. Yeah.
And
actually played super well. You ramp to the 8 super fast and then just drop bombs after bombs. Yeah.
Yeah. I see what it's trying to do. It's very interesting. It is surprising. Well, I say this was a 15-person tournament, keep in mind.
Yeah.
So,
and this is top 16, so
yeah.
So... Oh, it's balloons. Do we not know balloons?
Oh, is that actually balloons?
It says by balloons.
If that's actually balloons, we absolutely know balloons.
We need to get him on and do an interview.
Need to talk to him. And you're like, where did you find this? How did you come up with
it? First of all, how dare you?
I'll be honest. This is the most creative Lorcana deck I've probably seen so far. They're like, did okay.
That's great.
I don't even know what the Pinocchio does. Like, bounces an item or a character, right?
No, there's a character with 3 or less.
Okay.
Yeah, character or item of 3 or less. So it's it's a kit.
Yeah, it's balloons. Yeah. I'm gonna message balloons and be like, "What the heck were you thinking?"
I also kind of want to give it a try. Can I?
Yeah, like why not? I
have 2 Talas now. I just open 1.
I don't have the Talas. I probably have everything else.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that would stop me. I think is the Talas. I think I pretty much have the rest. That's great.
That's so
All right.
funny.
Well, that's a good note to leave it on, I think. A wacky deck.
I agree.
So what does your week in ink look like, Brandon?
Tuesday I have league. We're doing starter deck league for I think the first 4 weeks, where we start with a starter deck. We open a couple packs, and then like this week we'll go in, buy 2 more packs, open those up. You can add it to the starter deck. So I'll be doing that.
That's a good idea. How does it, like, do you have to like document what you've opened or what you're putting in, or is it just a trust thing? Or
it started that way when they did it last set, and I wasn't going there during last set because I was going to the one closer to me, and they said it was a bit troublesome to like keep up with everything, and there was a sheet, and it was difficult for everybody to sign all their stuff in. So this time it's just like a trust thing. It's like you open your stuff, you put it in your deck, and you'll know if somebody's like building out their starter deck to like be really good. It's like it's a small group of us that play there anyway, so it's a bit easier to do the we just trust that we're not going to cheat system. But it's fun, it's cool. It's very much like draft and sealed though, especially with this set where it's like if you don't have the removal, you're not going to do well, and the people who are lucky enough to pull the removal are probably going to do a bit better than you are. But I like the idea of it as a format just to like ease players into the game, help people build a collection a little bit that they can hopefully do something with. So be doing that. If I don't open anything that I need in the 2 packs that I'll buy tomorrow, buying the rest on Friday for singles, and crying as my bank account is emptied.
I'm going to spend Friday morning. I'm going to go to Toys R Us as a spectator. I'm genuinely curious to see, because so last set 2, Toys R Us, there was a line out the door of all of the Lorcana players from my store desperately trying to get their hands on some product. This time we've been selling boxes, we've been packs. I've got packs on the shelf right now for set 3. There's a lot more out there, but still troves and gift sets have still been pretty low allocated to game stores. So I'm just curious to see who's there. So I'm going to go and get a coffee and say hello to people lining up. Just purely for research, really. And then this week we'll be doing League. And then next week we have a constructed tournament, which I'm probably not going to play in. I think I'm going to have to manage. So,
okay,
good fun. Where can people find you, bud?
Everyone can find me on YouTube at B224. I released a booster box opening video today. It's just kind of a chill video, something fun to put on in the background.
It's good box.
It was a good box. It was a very good box. I pulled an Enchanted. There's another video of a Trove and a gift box I opened that also had an Enchanted, if you want to go watch that as well. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at B224, capital Y, capital T.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, folks. We appreciate you all being here, and we'll see you next time. Until next week in Ink.
That was This Week in Ink.